All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Frantic Talks podcast, episode 11. I am your lovely co-host. Actually, I'm just your lovely host, Frantic. I do have a co-host who's also a host, and his name is Grunt, and he is sitting over. I think it's this way when I'm thinking about it. Yeah, he just waved. And welcome. This is episode 11. We are Frantic Talks. This is a podcast where we talk about video games and junk, and I'm excited to talk to you guys. It's been an interesting week for us. Very interesting week that we'll definitely talk about all the stuff we've been doing. But welcome.
Yes, welcome. If you're listening live, hello.
Yes, if you're
If
listening live on Twitch, hello. If you can see us, we'll wave to you.
I wave. Which fun fact about closing episodes?
Yeah,
Every time before we did the video version last week, every time we would sign off and end the episode, I would always wave at my microphone. So
yeah, and now you can see that you do that.
yeah, so
That's cool. If it looks like I'm not making eye contact with the listeners, it's because my webcam is below my screen and Grunt's up here. So I try to make eye contact with the guy who's not in front of me. So, um, but yeah, if you are this is the first time seeing our video version of the podcast, then you're not too late. We've only done one other one, which was last week. It will permanently be like this, and we are still playing around with the format a bit. Last week we had really big faces of us up top, and then the content below us. But after I reviewed it and went through it, I realized it was kind of hard to see some of the content we were talking about. So I've shrunk our sizes, put us down to the bottom left and bottom right, and now you can see on your big screen right here in front of you, which I can also see, the Bungie Weekly Update, which there will be other things we go to at this point. But that's actually a big thing to talk about because that's how our week has been.
yes, it has been.
So ever since I got the Taken King a week from last Monday, so that would have been January 20 something. I don't
Yeah,
remember. I could get my phone out, but I'm not going to. Ever since I got that,
January 20 something. That
yeah,
works.
it's let's see, Friday was the 29th, so it would have been 8, 7, 6. It would have been the 5th, 25th. Sound about right?
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Yeah. Yeah, so the 25th, ever since I got it, we've been kind of like nonstop playing it all every day of each day of the week. Um, for those of you that do not know, and probably most of you don't know, I barely played Destiny. I played it in year one when House of Wolves was out, so the max level was 34, and I
Yep.
got to like 32 or something, and never got to 34. I was close to it, but I didn't get to it. I played that a lot. Not enough to get max level, obviously, but enough to play it and enjoy it for the time I enjoyed it. And then I picked it up with the Taken King, a week and a half ago. So I was late to the party on that one because what Taken King came out in like September or something like that.
Yeah, around I want to say like September 14th. It's been out for a few months.
Right. And just kind of been playing it nonstop. I've been really enjoying it, which is good and bad in a couple of senses. Good because all the content that they want and all the ways that they want it, I would assume, are there after 4 months of being out. But bad because I'm really behind the curve in terms of people who have already max leveled.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
that's okay. I'm
definitely.
I'm not alone. There's still plenty of new people.
Oh yeah,
Uh, yes,
there's plenty of old people that haven't hit max level too. Me.
yeah. You're getting there. But we've been playing a lot of that, and I've been having a lot of fun doing it. Um, the most notable thing is we beat Oryx last night. Not last night, 2 nights ago.
Finally.
Finally beat Oryx.
Uh,
I know you actually hadn't beaten him. You'd gotten to him, but you hadn't beaten him, correct?
I have only beaten him once. It was Grunt Dad that has gotten to him several times and hasn't been able to beat him.
Okay. Yep. So we did that with a couple of really cool people. You've probably heard us mention the name Freak Show, and if he's listening, shout out to you, Freak Show. He begs to be on the podcast every now and then. And
Like every single time.
yeah, it's more fun to torture him and not let him on here than it is to let him just come on for 5 minutes. um, no, he helped us out a lot. He knows a lot about the game, but I would say Grunt knows maybe more. I don't know. It's not a contest.
Not a
Oh,
contest, no.
him, Grunt Dad, me, and Grunt, of course. That was four of the six, and then we had this guy named Kutch, who is shout out to Kutch if he ever hears this. He's a champ. He clutches. I don't remember the sixth person. Nightfall, I think, was one of the dudes that was with us at the time. Or no,
Fluid One. Fluid One
Fluid
is
one.
actually who
Yeah.
who helped us finish it.
So if you know these people or if you are them, shout out to you guys. So we finished it. It was my first time ever completing a raid that I wasn't over leveled for. and it was quite the experience because we started Tuesday night when it reset. And what time did we start? Probably like 7 or 8 o'clock Eastern.
Oh, yeah, I would say about 8 Eastern.
Okay, so we started at 8 Eastern. To give you an idea what happened, we went till about 2 or 3 in the morning Eastern time. And that got us to Oryx, if I'm not mistaken. We beat everybody up to
Uh,
him.
it got us actually to the Daughters, which is right before Oryx.
Okay, so we got to the last bit of it, and then the next day we only had a couple hours because I had to be up early the next day. So we went from about 8 o'clock to 11, and we beat the sisters, and we're working on Oryx. And then last night we were not last night, the night before that we beat
Thursday.
Oryx. Yeah, Thursday night we ended up beating Oryx around 11 p.m. starting at around 8 again. So if you do the math on that, it's easily what like 14 hours somewhere in there in this one freaking raid.
Yeah,
It's like 13 or
and
14.
yeah, and really, for my first raid, it took about 4 hours over 3 days. So it's about the same.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
it was my very first time doing it, so we took it slower than normal. It's not everybody knows exactly what to do and assigns himself a role immediately. It was who wants to try this, who wants to do this. So it was quite the experience. I definitely had fun. It was definitely rewarding when we finally did it. I like jumped up out of my chair when he died, and I was like, oh, we
oh
did it.
yes, yes,
Everybody got really excited. I heard too. So it was fun. It's challenging, but it's fun. It's one of
yeah,
those where everything has to go right and you have a very small amount of error that you can have.
exactly.
So,
And I don't know, I don't know how I feel about that because to me it feels like you're not allowed even the slightest room for error.
hmm
But I don't really want that. I don't want to have to execute everything perfectly in a raid. But I don't want a bullet sponge like we had with Atheon back in year one. So I guess I'll take it.
it makes sense. It's I the only raid I had done at this point was literally like the week before we did Oryx. You guys took me through Crota's End just to do it, and I think
4 people.
yeah, we did it with 4 people instead of six, and we did it in like 45 minutes. I think was the final time, so it was not that hard to go through over leveled.
48. Yeah,
Was it 48
48
minutes?
minutes.
Yeah. So that was my only experience, and Crota's End's a little short compared to well, not a little short. It is very short compared to Oryx.
Oh,
Um,
definitely. I
it
think,
was a unique experience in my mind. Like I didn't know how to kill or not Oryx. I didn't know how to kill Crota, but it wasn't bullet sponge. It was hit him with a sword.
yep.
So it's pretty interesting.
It was, I think it was first raid for a lot of people on many different aspects. It was your first time through the raid and completing it. It was
hmm
Grunt Dad's first time actually beating Oryx. Uh, the other Fluid, he was looking for the touch of malice. He got that. So will you. So will
Yeah, Freak
Freak
Show
Show.
got it.
Freak Show, yeah, he already has it.
Yeah, I'm working on that.
Um, Normally, when I raid, I'm not someone who steps up and takes charge of certain aspects of it
hmm
because I always have the thought in the back of my mind, oh God, I'm going to screw something up and everyone's going to hate me.
hmm
Well, I got tasked with doing quite a bit of stuff for the first time, like running the aura on the War Priest. That was
Yeah,
new. I've never done that. Back when we were fighting Oryx, I normally was always assigned to a platform, and I was down in the middle with
shooting
ogre
stuff.
duty.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, I kind of took charge
also
at the end too, even though I'd never done it before, which is kind of weird to think. It was more so just making sure everybody knew what they were doing. If you aren't familiar with the Oryx raid, the very last bit, there's 4 platforms they have to step on a certain order, and then there's a runner who jumps kind of from platform to platform. Well, technically, you only
yeah,
have to step on 3 platforms, but there's 4 of them, and the fourth one's where you have to get to. And then there's a runner who has to jump from platform to platform. And while they're doing that, a bunch of stuff spawns, including these ogres. And when you kill an ogre, it drops this bomb that you can explode. But if you set off the bomb, it will kill you. So you have to be invincible, which is something the runner gets after he climbs all the platforms. He or
yeah,
she.
it's a aura of immortality, I believe is a correct
Yeah.
term for it.
Yeah, and then when they get that aura, they drop down and can like if you're with as long as you're within like I'd say like 5 to 7 feet of them, you're mortal. So you can set these bombs off and run back and stay alive when they go off, and that's how you end up killing Oryx is hitting him with these big old bombs. And
Yeah,
so what the interesting thing is a bomb drops at each platform, but you only have 3 people on the platform, so you have to have a fourth person go set off another bomb that they weren't at. And so while I was jumping from platform to platform, whenever we were going to set bombs off, I would sit there and say, "Hey, are you in? You know where you're going? You know where you're going?" Because if one person goes to the wrong spot, and you have to send them all off at the same time. So if someone goes there to the wrong spot and then we run out of time, you can't kill him. So I kind of took charge in that sense, and then just doing call outs in general, which for being the first time into it, I mean, I thought I learned it quick. It's pretty simple once you think about it, but the
Oh
initial
yeah,
step into it, it's just you got to do it all right.
yeah. It definitely you know sitting here and explaining it like we have, it sounds super complicated, but once you get into it and
Hmm.
you've ran through it a couple times, yeah, you'll wipe a couple times, but that's okay. That happens.
Yeah.
It's not really that difficult. So it's just you have to get into a rhythm so you
Hmm.
know what to do. It's like muscle memory. All right, I'm assigned to platform 3. When he slams over here, I need to go to back left or back right or whatever.
Yeah. It's it was challenging, like you was saying, and it definitely isn't something that I think many people could do in one go through. I think with enough practice, you probably could, but
Right.
it's still a lot of fun. It's rewarding once you do it. You get some pretty cool stuff out of it. I got a couple of cool things. I think I got the shotgun a lot of people wanted, and I got a really cool helmet.
Yeah.
Um, so if you're ever thinking about doing that raid or wanting to get back on and do it again, if you've done it before, or if you just never played Destiny, I mean, if you haven't played Destiny, then this whole talk has been probably over your head. But um, for the most part, yeah, it was a lot of fun. Which brings me to some other points in terms of Destiny, which if you can see on the backdrop here, the weekly update are now called This Week at Bungie, which they've changed the name. They mention updates to the raid. Those ogres that we mentioned when they spawn, uh,
Screw those guys.
yeah, they can teleport because okay, so you have to set off a total of typically 16 bombs, and if you remember, it's 4 platforms. It means you got to do 4 rounds of setting off bombs. You can set
Right.
them off in any order you want, but what we did we set off 8 at a time, so we did it twice. There's challenge mode, which means you set off all 16 at once, which means they typically stack the bombs on top of each other by killing the ogres right when they spawn.
Yeah.
The problem with that is, and this is described in Bungie's words, is the bombs would be in the way in like the path of the ogre, and the ogre would be trying to find a path to walk, so it would just teleport because it couldn't get through the bomb. And so that caused a lot of issues because we wiped many times trying to get the ogres killed, and then they would just teleport closer to where we were, and we couldn't set off the
Right.
bombs correctly, or we did, and it just didn't work. So that
And
was annoying.
yeah, outside of time constraints on Wednesday night, we could have had that raid done that night. Heck, we could have had it done earlier in the night on Thursday. But
Teleporting
the
ogres.
teleporting ogres really messed us up, and
Yeah.
I'm super glad they're fixing that because it's it needs fixed. I'm just hoping we don't have a problem back like we did in year one with Atheon, because on hard mode you could have a bunch of like warlocks throw their solar flare grenade or whatever it is. It's like a giant ball of fire once
Mm.
it explodes on the ground, and the AI's natural reaction is to move away from that grenade. So if you had a couple grenades placed in the right spot, Atheon would just back off his platform and it would kill him. So that was the cheesing of Atheon on hard mode. They fixed that like a month after, maybe more, um, after people figured out how to do it, and they broke something else. So you couldn't push Atheon off, but he would only teleport one people, or one people. Wow, English, one person instead of 3 people that he's supposed to normally.
Hmm.
So I'm hoping we don't have a problem like that where they fix one thing, break another that makes the raid nearly unplayable.
Right. I mean, this isn't unplayable. It just made it way harder than it should have been.
Yeah,
Um,
that's true.
we were on easy mode. If anyone was, or not easy mode, we were on the lower difficulty. We weren't on challenge mode or hard mode or anything.
It's
Yeah,
normal mode. Normal
normal. Yeah,
mode
we were
is
on normal mode versus hard mode, which at our light level was hard typically because the recommended level is 290, and I'm sitting at 296 as the lowest guy, and the highest guy's at like 307. So
yeah.
we,
By the time the raid starts at 290 light level, but by the time you reach the end there, all of the enemies are 300.
right.
Because normally the way it works with the raids is when you start it, they're at the base level that it's recommended. So like for Vault of Glass, it was like level 26 for normal mode. But
Hmm.
by the time you reach the end, the enemies were level 28. And
Yeah.
at that point, the highest you could go was level 30 if you had all the raid gear maxed out and everything. So if you had that, you were only a couple levels ahead of where it's at. So
Hmm. Yep. And if you don't know what light level is, if you're listening, you'll understand what we're talking about. Light level is essentially just how effective you are at max level. So once you get max level, your light level is probably close to 200, I would say, in that era, if you haven't gotten any of your higher gear. The
yeah,
highest you can be is 320. So obviously, the higher you are, the way more effective you are against other stuff. So that's what that means.
as Shax would say, power matters, Guardian.
It does. Um, Speaking of shacks and all that stuff, we did Iron Banner last week, and we did Trials of Osiris both weekends. And that's
Ugh,
been interesting. We went on a
trials.
5 win streak in trials yesterday, and then immediately lost three in a row and did not get the hand cannon after our seventh win because we didn't get a seventh win. We didn't even get a sixth.
No,
Um,
I'm telling you, man, error code rabbit messed us
Eric,
up.
that's what it was. It really did. Uh, Destiny's been having connectivity issues, if anybody's wondering, and it gives you an error code when you disconnect. Like right before they did server maintenance, the error code was Baboon. I got it a couple times, and now they did server maintenance, and now it's error code Rabbit. I'm hoping next week it's like error code uh, Beagle or something stupid like that.
Oh, the common one that I've gotten has been Weasel. I always
Weasel.
joke with
Okay.
the game. Oh, Destiny, this is how you treat me for playing you all the time. You call me a weasel. I see how it is.
Right. You're insulting me for playing your game too much.
Yeah,
Um, we could talk a little more about that logic, by the way. Not in the sense of calling us a weasel, but playing the game too much because ever since I got back into it, I decided I was going to learn a little more than I knew last time, which was basically nothing. So I've been browsing the Destiny subreddit, which is Destiny the game. It is not r/Destiny. If you were curious, I don't know what r/Destiny is, but it's definitely not the game.
we
So just
probably don't want to know.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking. You want to put the game at the end of it, and you'll get there. Um, from what I've read through many of the comment threads and many of the daily posts that are saying we need more PvE, is that players are wanting more PvE centric stuff and not PvP events. But I've read good arguments on both sides and seen the upsettedness of each person, like, oh, I want a new raid, I want new this, I want new that. Um,
Yeah, I don't. I agree with what they're saying on the PVE, more PVE events
mhm,
because I'm mostly a PVE player. Sure, I've been playing the Crucible a lot more, which is the PvP mode of Destiny.
mhm,
But I still linger on more so playing the PVE stuff because sometimes I just want to shoot aliens in the face and not have to deal with that guy using a lag switch at whatever connection speed stuff. I don't know, but
right.
I want to shoot aliens in the face that are going to die when I shoot them, not some guy that's going to teleport across the map when I see him. So
Yeah, and I did notice in the last couple of PvP games we played in the Crucible, I was having some connection issues where I'd be, even in Trials, I was having the issue where I'd be pumping my clip into a guy and I wouldn't see the hit markers until about a half a second later, which can be
right.
pretty rough when you're doing a really competitive game mode like Trials, which, if anyone's listening that doesn't know what Trials are, it's basically the most competitive form of the game where you need to get a lot of wins to get the really good stuff, and it's when the quote unquote tryhards tend to show their colors. So that's what it is. But you and I had an interesting conversation where you had mentioned that you want to play the PVE side of it, and you're like, if I want a PvP, I'd do this or something. I don't remember necessarily the context of it, but I remember what I said was basically, well, you like PvE, which is totally fine. This guy likes PvP, which is totally fine. This game has both and can satisfy both. I'm trying to remember everything we had said in that conversation. You might be able to remember.
We were actually discussing the division that day.
Oh, we were discussing the
Yep.
division to
Because
where. Oh, I remember what it was now. I
yep, the
remember.
only way you can get the really high end gear from the division, it seems, is the Dark Zone, which is their, um, as they put it, their high risk, high reward PvP game mode.
Yeah, that's right.
So
And I don't know if we mentioned it last week on the podcast, but I know we were talking about how we didn't quite understand how it works. And I know that we
mhm,
both get it now. And I know we're kind of sidebarring from Destiny, but it's very applicable to Destiny. And The Division, which is the Tom Clancy game that's coming out soon that they had the beta for last week, in The Division, you can um, Oh, excuse me. In the Division, you go into this place called the Dark Zone, which he was saying it's high risk, high reward PvP. And by the way, PvP is player versus player. I know we've said it a bunch of times already, but make sure you understand what we're actually saying here. You can get really good loot. Well, the problem is you can't just walk out of there with the loot. You have to call for an extraction, which takes 1 minute. But what it does is you fire this big old flare into the air, and then there's a big old target marked on you, like, oh, you should go kill them for their loot. So then you have to kind of like defend your extraction area, pretty much. So that way
Right.
you can get the loot out. So that's we
I
were
like the
talking about that.
I like the concept of it now that I understand it,
Hmm.
because I think I mentioned it last week when I went in there first, you know, thinking it was PvP. No one shot me. No one did anything. I was standing in front of like 6 players at one point, and they did nothing.
Hmm.
They just kept going. So it was a little confusing, considering most of the PvP games I play are they force you to kill the other team. So games like
Right.
Halo, Destiny,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah. There's no like
There's really
calmness. It's all just twitch shots and like trying to get people.
yeah. There's really no set rules as to how to play it, unlike other games that have a competitive multiplayer where they dictate, so to speak, how you play that mode.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah. It's
you
just
can,
like an open world PvP thing.
right, exactly, and I like that concept. I do
Hmm.
like it. It was just mega confusing at the start because I'm expecting someone to walk in there and someone to kill me, and they didn't.
Right. Yeah. The one time I went in, I literally ran into nobody. There was no one there. So that was really weird.
Steal all the loot. Oh,
Yeah.
that's not a phone. That's totally a phone.
Ignore the background noise, everybody. But yes, so so like he was saying, you get the best loot in the PvP area, which he was like, why can't I get that in the PvE area? And you can make that argument for Destiny, and I saw that argument being made, but it was kind of the inverse, where it was like, well, I only want to play Crucible. Why do I have to go do the raid to get the best gear in the game and get light level 320? Like the 320 ghost that drops or something like that. I don't remember what they were talking about, but it was mostly people being like, I'm really upset that I'm still stuck at 319. For the most
Right.
part, was the
Yeah.
entire comment section. Uh, so it's an interesting discussion in my mind because it's how do you want people to get to the max level? Do you want to let them kill other people in PvP, or do you want to let them just kill AI and fight through the hardest raids and stuff and get the max level, or do you want to allow them to do both? And some of the people in the comments are saying they got max rank through Iron Banner, which is a monthly or somewhat, I don't know the
It's
exact,
monthly. I
is a
think it
monthly.
comes back every month. It's every 3 to 4 weeks. So
And what that is that's just that's another competitive PvP thing, but it only lasts for like a week or so. Actually, I think it
yeah,
is just a week,
it's
and
a
you
week.
can rank up in it and get if you get the max rank, which isn't terribly hard as long as you wait till the last day to turn in the weekly bounties that you got. You can get to the max rank and you get a pretty good loot drop, which is I got a pretty great loot drop when I did it. So I'm
Yeah,
kind of glad I picked up the game the week I did because that was literally right when Iron Banner happened. So
it was very good timing too.
yeah,
So
so that was perfect timing for me. But anyways, um,
and
it
uh,
brings up an interesting discussion in design, but you can go ahead. Sorry.
I just want to say, I definitely think Griffball style tactics help in uh, Rift. So
Oh yeah, the Iron Banner playlist was Rift, which is it's basically one bomb assault, neutral assault, or sabotage if
neutral
you're a Call
assault.
of Duty player. It's just that. But the thing about it is you ignite this rift by grabbing a spark that charges in the middle, and you can repeatedly do it. It doesn't do like a round-based combat or anything.
Yeah, the spark charges every I think like 20 or 30 seconds.
Yeah, something like that.
So
So yeah, that was what the Iron Banner was, and it was interesting. It was my first PvP experience, and it was kind of highly competitive PvP. I think I'd played one round of Crucible back when I played Destiny in year one,
yeah, because
and
I
I had
remember you
nothing to
told me you
expect.
didn't really care much for the Crucible back
Yeah,
then.
and now I actually have a lot of fun in it. There's some things I don't like, which with every first-person shooter, there's always something that's typically overpowered that people will abuse. Some will call it
Have
being a tryhard, others will call it being a competitive player, which
some
is
some
true.
call it the last word.
Some call it the last. That's funny. Yeah.
uh,
Uh, I've enjoyed it at the time I've done it so far. It's been I don't know how to describe it, but I've figured out what I'm good at and what I'm I would say what I'm not liking, which is either connection or certain classes abusing their abilities in certain ways. Let's put it that way.
Uh,
Although I
what
am
classes
wickedly
those?
good at throwing a hammer. Not to
uh,
brag or anything.
how was that? I totally missed that leading hammer throw from last night. You
Oh
have
my
to
God, it's
explain that to me.
all right. So I'll try to paint a picture here for you guys. The class I run is the Titan Sun Striker. Is that what it's called? Sunbreaker.
Sunbreaker.
Sunbreaker. My bad. And he basically
Yeah,
gets a
get it
hammer.
right.
Sorry, he gets a Thor hammer. So if you're familiar with Thor, he throws it, and it typically comes back to him. Well, the hammer doesn't really come back to you; it just kind of reappears in your hand, and you can throw it again, or it's just another hammer that you've made. But anyways, you get this fire hammer, and you start chucking at stuff. And we were playing. I think it was actually Rift was the playlist because that was the daily playlist to finish the challenge for.
Yeah, it
And
was.
the guy who had the spark, which is the equivalent of having like the ball and griff ball, or having the bomb, or having the basically just having the bomb, um, he was running towards our spawn where he needs to ignite the rift, and then he kind of had to back out because his teammate got killed by my hammer that I chucked down the hill and nailed right in the face. And then I jump up and float really high up into the air because that's what my Titan does. He gets really high in the air, not off of marijuana or anything. And
There
I
we
see
go.
this. I chuck a hammer and I miss him. And then I see him. I have one hammer left, and I see him running really, really far out. So I had to lead him with my hammer. So I just threw it straight out, and it was like he goes straight into an angle right to where I threw it. And I'm pretty sure I recorded it, and it was pretty freaking sweet.
Well, I hope so because
So
I missed it. I was sitting and watching the respawn screen. I did a lot of that last night.
yeah, you weren't having the greatest night from what you were saying. I can't
Oh,
say I was paying too much attention to our performance besides like the in-game stats of, oh man, we all had like one combined death in that game. Yeah, the game where where I led that dude with my hammer, I had the most deaths with 4 deaths, and then the rest of our team had like 1 or 0. It was kind of stupid.
yeah,
The other
that
team
team
was just
is
not having a good
pretty.
day.
Yeah, pretty bad.
Now with this hammer kill, which if I recorded it, I will upload it to the Frantic Talks podcast page when we upload this to the site if I had it, so you can see what I described. I'm pretty
Mm,
sure I recorded it because it was that awesome. And if I didn't, I'm sorry. And I apologize to anybody who's looking forward to seeing it. Just imagine how a quarterback leads a wide receiver in football, except the ball is a flaming hammer, and they died.
and yeah, and the receiver is a person on the enemy team who melts.
Yeah. So it was a pretty
So
sweet kill. I also got a recording of our dance party on top of the Cryptarch's house, or Cryptarch's area. That was funny.
it only took a year and a half, but I finally got to witness that. Only took a year and a half.
It was so good. We just had there was a bunch of people standing on top of the area behind Cryptarch, and they're all just standing there. And then Freak Show's like, "Oh shit, they're having a party!" And he runs over, jumps up, and then starts dancing. And then everyone else starts dancing, so we joined in, and it was really really funny. I Snapchatted it and sent it to like 5 of my friends because it was really funny. All right. Anyways, we can move on to actually what the update was talking about from Bungie. Now that we're done reminiscing about all the shit we've done in the week in Destiny.
So was that time I almost clutched the War Priest?
Oh yeah. Oh, we've had so many good times this week. No, the War Priest is one of the bosses in the raid. He's like the first boss, and well, he's not the first boss, but whatever. He
First boss
basically.
is the jumping puzzle.
Oh, that's right. Uh, but he basically he kind of like how I described with the bombs and Oryx, where they just blow up and you die. There's a spot you have to stand where he calls in like the light of the sun or something. I don't remember what it's called, but he kills everybody unless you're behind a certain like floating stone. But he kills
It's a
that
glitch.
stone, so you have to keep moving. It's
Yeah.
yeah. And so we all thought we were safe where we were, and for some reason Grunt was like, "That's not right." So he runs over to another spot that is actually a
Left.
safe spot.
The left side of the map.
Yeah, he goes to the left side of the map, and everybody dies. And we're like, "Oh no, what the heck?" And then Grunt's still alive and ends up killing everything, and then revives all of us. And then we ended up not having anywhere to stand when he did it again because we hadn't killed him, and we all died.
Yeah.
But he was so close to clutching it.
So close.
It was really
So
awesome.
friggin' close.
So that was really funny. Anyways, so now that
Yeah.
we've been on the topic of Destiny for now. The next event coming is Crimson Days, which is the Valentine's event, which is 2v2 PvP that you can get some pretty sweet loot drops from. And before any of you ask, I have already asked Grunt to be my Valentine. So we're gonna kick some butt. Actually, I'll probably end up teaming up with Freak Show if you're not there. Or he'll team up with you if I'm not there. So, but
Most likely, that's
yeah,
most likely how it will go.
that's it's usually how it goes. So it's just a PvP event where you can get some pretty sweet loot drops. I don't know what the game type is. It's probably gonna be an elimination. I can look that up
It
here
is,
on
yeah.
the.
It's 2v2 elimination.
Okay. Well, then I'm not gonna look it up back here. But I am gonna go into the weekly update now that we've been talking about it for like 20 minutes. Um,
Just a
so
little off track.
yeah, we got a little off track, but it was fun to reminisce, and hopefully you enjoyed our stories. And we'll probably have plenty more tomorrow or next weekend. So this is it is now called This Week at Bungie. It is no longer called the Bungie Weekly Update. I feel like they said at one point it has been called that before, but anyways.
I don't. In my almost 9 years of being on the website, personal brag moment, by the way. Um, I've never heard it referred to as This Week at Bungie, so it would be before 2007
Okay.
for me, at least. But
Okay. Yeah, and the potential names are hilarious. If we're gonna
I'm
brag about how long we've been on websites, my brag is that the Red versus Blue website, back before Griffball was even a thing, I was on there since 2005. So that's like
oh
what, 11 years?
yeah, wow, ancient
Ooh.
over there, man.
Oh yeah, you know. Um, so they came up with some hilarious names. This was all community suggested, I believe.
Yep, over Twitter.
Yeah, and there's a couple of funny ones, but I'll just go through them real quick. Quarter monthly hug extravaganza. That's one of my favorites. Uh, Coffee talk with Deej or DJ. One of the
Deej.
two. Is it Deej? Okay.
Yep.
I have a friend whose his nickname's DJ, so we sometimes call him Deej. So that's kind of funny. Traveler's Tales. That one just makes sense. Dear Diary, The Salt Block, Show and Tell, Blog with Benefits. That one's also really funny. And the Destiny Demonstrative Divulge. So those were some of the front runners.
I personally prefer the salt block because every week after a weekly update comes out, pretty much the salt pours out of everyone.
Oh, yep, yep.
So, not saying that's a bad thing. I'm not saying that's a bad thing.
I'm glad
It's
that they
okay,
they kind of acknowledge that though by including it in this list.
but yeah, it's Destiny community gets a little salty. They need to cut back on the sodium.
Yeah. Okay, so yep, the Crimson Days, which begins on February 9th, they will deploy an update, which is 2.1.1, and that's where this. I saw you do your fingers there. um, and that's where the description of how we describe the ogres that were teleporting, where they will implement that fix. They're implementing a very interesting PvP thing, which is the biggest takeaway from all this in my mind. Um, in game modes that are 3v3, you will not spawn with special ammo.
Right.
A lot of trials, which is what we've been playing, and then a lot of the 3v3 playlists that we jump into for the daily Crucible playlist.
Yeah, I'm trying to find somewhere in here they mentioned some of the other playlists, but
Right, they mention it, and you find that real quick, but I'll explain basically. They don't want special ammo being so relied upon in the early rounds to where it's basically quick sniping will get you a lead, and that's kind of how it happened.
yeah,
Th
it's a skirmish, salvage, elimination, trials, and any rotating 3v3 playlists are covered. Um,
yep.
they often have versions of like skirmish and salvage that they call like Inferno skirmish or Inferno salvage. Um,
Okay.
basically, it's the same game type. It's just it has a little bit more simplified scoring, and you the biggest thing is you have no radar. So
Oh, okay. So yeah, that's they're removing special ammo from the spawn. They will still spawn in like normal. So you could probably get it in the first round, depending on how long the round goes, if it's a round-based game, or you just will get it eventually.
yeah,
But it is basically so your team has to focus more on your primary weapons, and you don't just get a sniper that can take out two guys right at the very beginning and give you guys an upper hand or something like that.
right.
Um,
And based on what you just said there, I totally understand why they're doing it
mhm.
because they mention the 6-on-6 game modes later on, and that third person is going to be more beneficial in a 3-on-3 game mode to your team than that fifth or sixth person that got killed because they were wanting to run up a hallway where a sniper always looks down. So
Mhm.
I totally understand why they're doing it.
Yeah, I can't say that I've seen any backlash about this, although I haven't read too many comments. I think it makes much more sense.
Right.
It makes you have to be a little more tactical, especially in trials, which is what we've been playing the most.
Hmm.
because that is what has happened the most besides Iron Banner since I've been playing again.
Yeah.
And I think that makes the most sense. There are many times where I can pull off some pretty quick snipes, and you and I have done that pretty often in our trials times. But there are also people who are way too good at sniping that can just take you out immediately every round. So
Came
I
across a few of those last night.
yeah, we did. That was rough. That was very rough. So I agree with it. And like we said, it will not happen in the 6v6 because in 3v3, going down 3v2 almost at the very beginning can be very detrimental. Although we
Oh yeah.
did lose in a 3v2 match when we were the three.
Let's not talk about that.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that.
Yeah. Because especially in games like trials, because most tactics I see teams do, they get one person down, they have one person cover the spawn or the
Hmm.
orb of the person that they
So
just
they don't get
killed,
revived.
so they don't get revived, and then you have your two others rush the other remaining players.
Hmm.
So at least I saw that a lot last night, but I know it's a good tactic people use a lot, especially when you go down even by another player and you have two players down on the other team and only one person. So,
Right.
but we're talking about one person, that first person getting shot.
Yeah, it could be very detrimental. So other
Yeah,
times it's like they just ran and got a quick snipe and then left, and then you can just run over and revive them. But either way, it just makes more sense in my mind. So I'm glad that they're doing that. I'm excited to try it out next weekend if we end up doing it next weekend.
oh, I'm sure we will.
Yeah,
I still want the inward lamp. Give me yours.
yeah, I got the gun he wanted on my second week of trials. I've been lucky with that. It's kind of cheap to be honest. How lucky I've been. But anyways, we'll not talk about that.
We
We're
digress.
what we will talk about is the solo players who want their own solo playlists, and they are giving them. And to give you an idea of what this means, so if you're a solo Destiny player, like maybe like I once was when Grunt wasn't there and I didn't have Freak Show to join me, if you wanted to jump into a playlist and you got against a team, so you jump into a 6v6 playlist, for example, and you jump in and you get three guys who are in a fire squad and then two other dudes who are just solo in it. And then you come up against this team of six friends who know what they're doing, or this clan of six people. You're just basically outmatched because teamwork might not work. Maybe the guys on the fire team are in a party and they just
Right.
aren't talking to you. Who knows what it is? People were kind of like, what the heck? I don't want that happening. And this happened with Iron Banner recently with the Rift game mode because it's very team oriented. Well, they decided, all right, we'll give you a playlist called Freelance where you're not allowed to have a fire team, you just go in solo. And if you ever played Mercenary Team Deathmatch or Mercenary game modes in Call of Duty, that it's the same idea where you aren't allowed to have anybody in your party, and it's just a bunch of people who are going in solo and are looking to either work together or play against a bunch of solo people so they don't go up against a clan or something.
Right.
And they're doing that for the 6v6 and 3v3 game modes. They'll be mixed mode playlists. They won't be like you can jump into just Rift, from what I've read. So
Yeah.
that'll be
Oh,
that'll be pretty cool to see happen for the people who do it more solo and don't really have friends who play or can't really, who maybe aren't the most sociable or something.
right. Yeah. The thing they mentioned about it in the update. Let me see if I can quickly find it. Blah, 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 blah. They mentioned that they'll be on a rotating weekly basis. Freelance playlists will be available sporadically on the weekly rotators in your director. So to me, it sounds like they're not going to have them all the time,
Hmm.
which could be, I don't know, and that could. The whole point is they want these people to play their game. They can't team up with other people or they don't want to, whatever the reason. But they introduce these playlists only so often. That's not really accomplishing anything, unless they're just testing them out to see if they actually work.
Yeah, that's what
Because
I was thinking. To be like testing the waters.
yeah, because for all we know, there's not really a huge percentage of the Destiny player base out there that plays by themselves.
Yeah, it could be one of those. The 1% is the loudest because they're just upset. Typically
Right.
when you post something, it could be controversial or just post something. Typically, the people who disagree the most will be the loudest. So it could have
Right.
been 500 people read this and 20 people commented, but that's
Right.
still a lot of
Exactly.
comments to read. So that they would be testing it, and maybe they'll introduce it like permanently in the future. So who knows?
Yeah, they did that with Elimination, which is the base game mode of Trials.
Mm,
They brought it back for a week just as itself, um, and then it went away. Then it came back. It was like a weekly rotating playlist, and
mm,
then now it's available in the game permanently from the reset on Tuesday to Friday afternoon when Trials opens up. Then it gets replaced by Trials.
Right.
So
Yep. So the next bit that goes on to talk about is matchmaking and evaluation of Guardians, and this basically is them talking about the network connectivity stuff. Mainly that they're going to try to introduce this guy called the damage control or the damage referee. That's what it is, damage referee. It's in bold over here on the bottom if you can see it. Damage referee basically, if you have a bad connection, it basically tells you to get a better connection, or it tries to make it work better for the people who have the better connection. That's not the
yeah,
best way to describe it, but how I read it was if you have a bad connection, it's not going to be harder to kill you in the game as it is now.
yeah, it's
It's
going to
going to be
be
easier.
easier. Yeah,
Which
which
I ran into that last night and the night before, where there's this guy who's just teleporting and killing me, but I can't kill him.
right, and I'm torn about the issue on about this part of the update in particular because my connection is okay most of the time, but I know there have been many times where it lag has saved me.
Yeah, that's true.
um, and recently my connection's been fluctuating from being okay, good enough to play, on to really bad, and it's not. I can't do anything.
Hmm.
So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't.
I'm torn on the issue. I think it's good to improve the overall experience of matchmaking,
Hmm.
but I don't. There's people out there that are going to be basically punished for having a connection that is bad according to their standards when it's not even out of their control or in their control.
Right, it could be something completely out of control. Like last night, I noticed my connection fluctuating, and I pay for a pretty decent connection.
Right.
So
And
it was like, why is this happening?
right.
So I hope this thing doesn't sit there and just like boot you if you have a bad connection for like 5 seconds. So that'll be something that we'll just have to see if it even works. One of my friends who played Destiny pretty hardcore up until recently when Rainbow Six came out, he was sitting there saying like when they've tried to release previous ones like this, it hasn't done anything, or it just hasn't really worked
Right.
well. So don't have faith in it. And that was pretty like what's the word, negative. I couldn't think of that word. Um, and then other than that, let's see.
I think that's pretty much it. It's just
Yeah, and then it talks about the
bug
raid,
fixes.
and then I think there's probably patch updates that they don't have listed.
Yeah, those will probably be out on Monday or Tuesday. Probably Tuesday because they normally put those
Yeah.
out the day they patch the game.
Hmm.
It's normally recently they used to have the patch notes coming out like a week before the weekly update before the patch came out. So um, weekly update comes out on Thursday, and then that's when they would have the patch notes, and then the game normally gets patched on that following Tuesday.
Hmm.
But the last few times they did that method, they misinformed some people, and the salt block came true, um, and they quit doing that. So now they put the patch notes up after the patch actually goes live.
Right.
So we'll get those on Tuesday most likely,
Yeah.
since that's when update whatever is going live.
Right. Yeah. That
2.1.
2.1.1. Yeah. Yeah. And then the rest of it's just the like the community section where they show some cool videos and clips, which are pretty cool to watch if you have the time to watch them.
Definitely should watch the NFL Guardian. That is amazing.
Yeah, which is the third one out of four. Um, but something to note about it that they just kind of mentioned only Crucible related stuff, and then briefly about the raid, and that's where a lot of the disdain I would like the salt block would come from, where people are like mention more about PVE. And again, it's something we could just keep talking about. But overall, it's like there hasn't been any real big PVE event in a
No,
while.
and
So,
I recently just went off on a miniature rant over Twitter about this. I understand the reason that they are focusing on PvPs because, quite honestly, that does have more replay value.
mhm,
You're not playing the same content again and again and again. Yeah, you're playing the same maps, but you're playing against different people. You're using different weapons. You know, playing with different people. So it's different in that aspect. I understand, but I would like more events, some similar to what they do for PvP. Like they had Sparrow Racing League for PvP for a week.
Hmm.
Yeah, you didn't technically kill anyone, so how is it player versus player? You know, you could go into that debate, but you're racing against other people, is my argument to that.
Yeah.
So I would like to see more stuff like that. You know, maybe not necessarily a week long racing event because that would just be weird.
Hmm.
But you know, maybe have us like go on target hunts or something, something.
It would be interesting to just get something different than just bounties and the weekly
Right,
heroics and stuff. So
right.
that's
Back,
we can hope.
back even before the first expansion came out, they had a weekly PVE event where Queen's Guard, would show up in the tower, and you would have to go out and hunt certain minions of the darkness. You know,
Hmm.
that would be. It was normally like the same thing over and over again, but still, that's the stuff I want back in the game.
Hmm.
You know,
But I mean, when you think about it in terms of resources, they're busy working on Destiny 2, and
yep,
they're also they just got rid of their CEO, so I'm sure things are in crazy flux over there. And
right,
PvP events really don't require too much, if you know what I mean.
right,
In a PvE type thing, you have to code all the AI to do certain things and be able to give out certain targets. Now, I don't know how that works exactly because I didn't code the game and I don't know what ways they have it set up. If it's essentially flip the switch and pick a bounty and it works or something. But in PvP, you kind of just let everybody kill themselves and well, kill each other. Don't kill yourself. You let them kill each other and do most of the work, and you just put them on a map and turn on the reward rolling so that it rolls to give you these rewards. So you have a 1 in X amount of chance of getting the best reward, and then there's not much else to it.
right.
So, in terms of making the events, I imagine it's definitely easier to do a PvP event when all you have to do is give them a map, give them a reward, and give them motivation, and it just kind of
Right.
runs itself.
And I totally understand that that's probably the reason why we haven't had anything like a PvE event
Hmm.
recently because, you know, like you said, more it's easier and more effective to just do something where the players take care of themselves.
Yeah, they
Flip
just
a
don't.
switch and
Yeah,
for
they should just not neglect the PvE as much as I would think they have.
right.
And maybe there's a reason. Maybe they're coming out with some crazy big expansion that's somehow hidden from us. Who knows? I doubt it would be
Uh,
this early, but you
Back
know.
before they took the Christmas break, their senior community manager told us to wait until spring. So fingers crossed.
Yeah. So we spent a lot of time talking about this, a lot more than I expected, but that's okay. We have a couple more things that we can talk about really quick. The Halo Waypoint update, which is something else we normally talk about. So let me pop that up here. Whoops, wrong button. There we go. So we'll go through this probably rather quickly than normal since we're shorter on time. Um, They're giving some game updates here. I'll be honest, this is really my first time truly reading through it. I kind of skimmed it really fast. They talk about the X Games, which was the Halo tour where they did part of the championship tour, which we have something to talk about related to that here at the end of the podcast, which I've mentioned before. You'll be interested to hear what I think and what I've talked to other people about. Um, so they're updating the playlist. What exactly were they adding? That's it. Social Slayer. That was it's called Game Day Slayer, but they're adding a Social Slayer playlist. Which if you're familiar with what Social plus Slayer is, it's basically the more casual,
Casual,
yeah,
casual
the dirty
version of Slayer.
casuals. That's what it is. We're dirty casuals. I'm not gonna sit here and act like we're not, but that.
I don't know about you, but I was going super try hard in trials last night, man.
Oh yeah, that's we were trying. Well, we really wanted to get those 7 wins, but we're filthy casuals. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I wouldn't even call myself that. I'm barely casual,
Hmm.
barely filthy casual.
Yeah, they're making changes to CSR so that way you don't get put in champion tier so easily. Um, Basically, the minimum CSR to earn champions now 1800 and 15 instead of 1500. We placed a cap on the highest CSR you can earn after placement matches at 1700. It'll just make champions a more elite group and reward players that prove they're amongst the top in the world. I've never been in a champion tier. I've only been in Onyx tier and SWAT.
Not gonna lie, I had no idea champion tier even existed.
I think I knew it
So
did. I was like, oh yeah, I'm in Onyx. I'm in the highest tier, right? And then someone was like, no, Champion's higher. I'm like, well, that's dumb. Onyx is kind of cool to be in, but that's my one claim to fame there. Everything else, I was like gold and silver or platinum, I think, at one point in breakout, or
well,
I would still be, but they reset them anyway, so it doesn't matter because
yeah,
the
I was gonna
season
say,
changed.
didn't they reset them? So yeah.
Looks like they removed Arena Breakout from the Team Arena playlist. I actually wasn't aware it was in that. I haven't actually played Halo in a little while, but I do keep up to date with the stuff they're doing with the updates. Because, I mean, I still like the game a lot. And we talked about it for the first 10 podcasts, and we've only recently started going bananas with Destiny. So, if this is your first time listening, we do talk about other things. We just have a lot to talk about in terms of Destiny this week.
A lot.
Yeah. So, they're hitting a lot on multiplayer, and uh, they lowered the required rec level of many of our single-use weapons. That was on Tuesday. Uh,
Yeah, when I first read that they were changing the Warzone rec cost changes, when I first read that, I'm like, well, hey, they're going to lower the price on it. It won't cost 10,000 rec points to buy a gold pack. And then I read what they're actually doing. It's like, oh, well, all right.
yeah, you can just get certain guns at different levels. That's all it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
I
Lame.
still enjoy Warzone Assault.
Oh, yeah.
I will go back and
Yeah.
play that more. Um, yeah, there's a couple of them. They said the saw, the suppressor, the bolt shot, and the light rifle all had their rec costs lowered. If you don't know what the rec cost is, at certain levels of REQ, which is rec, so it's just a term. I don't really know what it stands for. At certain levels, you can get them. So you start off with your assault rifle magnum, and then going up higher, you can get a battle rifle or a light rifle or a rocket or a scorpion tank and stuff. And just as you go, I'll climb up the tiers. So some stuff has been moved down. It looks like, and
Yeah.
then their fun new skins and stuff they talk about. Uh,
Uh, I'm just going to note if you're talking about the part where it says a new blue, they actually changed the color of blue in the game for blue
really?
team in multiplayer. Yep.
Is that what they're showing us?
Yep.
Yeah, it's a little brighter.
Yep. They
Interesting.
changed they just changed the, I guess you could say, shading of it, so it's not this dark, really, I don't even know how to describe the original blue.
Yeah, it's yeah, the blue now, I would say it's a closer to, it's not a sky blue, but it's a little darker than that versus the other one, which was like a deep sea blue, maybe. Does
Yeah,
that seem about right?
I would guess so.
I mean, you can look at the picture on screen right now to see the differences. So on the left is the old, on the right's the new, with the great rainbow uh, Mr. Chief skin. And the reason they did this, as I was reading through here, is that they found out that blue team was winning a little more than normal, so they did some searching and found out that's just the lighting on some maps caused blue team to be a little harder to hit.
Really?
Yeah,
That's,
interestingly enough, that's why they did it, which makes sense. So that's good that you don't have color advantages.
I mean, that totally makes sense why they did that now, but
Yeah, um, yeah. They
all right.
they're bringing back assault, which means Griffball would be back, which is something we saw coming. And I saw you tweet about that.
Yep.
Let's see here. Oh yeah, the Knockyard was called about all that. They flew him out to the studio to talk about it and discuss it and figure out everything. That's pretty cool. Congratulations, Knockyard. Dear Lord,
Why
dude's going places. So that's cool.
don't we just cut to the chase? 343, hire him.
Yeah, right. Just hire the dude. He's clearly a good map
I mean,
designer.
he can make good griffball maps. So I'm pretty sure he could make good normal maps to play on. So
Mm. All right. Other than that, the Halo tour is after that. I mean, I'm kind of just skimming through it. Like I said, we're running out of time. If you want to read more about it, I'm not too in touch with this besides one specific thing, which is what we will be talking about as soon as I get through the community spotlight. Da, 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 da. Oh yeah, they've got maps here. So they remade Containment from Halo 2. I don't know if you ever played that one.
I messed around on it, but I never. That was before my time of playing online.
Yeah, I
So
never played it besides split screen and then getting out of the map. So
I tried to do that in Master Chief Collection, and it still works.
oh yeah, it does still work. That's right.
Yes, it does.
Half-Hala, which is a Valhalla remake, and it looks pretty much like it. Man, this is crazy what people can do in this game mode, or in 4.
I do
This
not
is
know
nuts,
how that looks. I swear I'm looking at Valhalla from Halo 3.
right? And
I
then
mean, that looks
I think
pretty
yeah,
identical to it, so good grief.
there's a screenshot of like I think how they're able to change the terrain. It almost looks like.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's insane.
and then whoa, this is like a really weird breakout map. Hmm. It's called
That's
Elevation. If you're looking at it on screen right now, it's pretty. It looks like a Cubert thing. That's really funny. Okay, and then play of the week, you can actually watch GIFs now. Oh my lord, that's a barrel rolling scorpion tank, and you got a splatter.
I would. I think if I saw that coming at me in the game, I would just nope,
Yeah, I would
nope.
just,
I'm done.
I'd be terrified.
Put
Um,
my controller down, walk away.
and then we got a guy who is, oh, he's streaming and he gets two no scopes and he gets out of his chair and just like walks away
Not gonna lie, that's kind of how I pictured all of us when
when
we
we
beat
beat Orc.
Legacy the other night.
That's about what I did. So yeah. All right, so that's everything in there. Sorry if we didn't get to all the specifics that you would want to hear. You can read more at the Halo Waypoint's website, halowaypoint.com. I want to get on to the last little bit about two things. Uh, First thing, I'm going to talk about X Games. I don't want to lose track, but there's the Magic Pro Tour, Magic the Gathering Pro Tour is happening right now. Uh, I've been seeing a bunch of tweets about it. Sounds interesting. I won't talk any more about it. I'm sure I will write something. Anyways, on to the X Games. So the Halo Tour was at the X Games, and I actually have the tweet that I will pull up here. That is the wrong one. That is the response. Here it is. Okay. So this tweet that you're seeing on screen, and if you can't see it, I will read it. This is from Christy Leskinen. I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly. She is a professional skier in the X Games, and she tweeted, "As athletes, sometimes we risk it all to win X Games. No gamer in the world deserves an hashtag X Games gold medal." And then she says, hashtag couch games, hashtag athletes only. Now, this sparked a lot of
Hashtag
controversy.
hashtag.
Hashtag, 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 hashtag. Obviously, this sparked a lot of controversy in the gaming community because there are many of us who would believe that they should be treated as athletes, hence the name eSports. Others would argue against it, as she clearly does, because, and she later goes on to reason, I'm not going to just single out this one tweet, but I don't want to scroll through her Twitter feed. She goes on later to point out that she says, it's not that I don't have respect for gamers, it's that we sacrifice our body day in and day out doing these extreme sports, and we get medals for that, and then these guys play games and get medals for it. And that was her main discrepancy. I don't want to take this too out of context. And so the one of the guys who won the Halo Championship literally tweeted at her with his gold medal, X Games Colorado. And, got a bunch of retweets, got all these likes. So what's important to note here is, are they athletes? Should they be considered athletes? And in the terms of the X Games, where the X literally stands for extreme, I'm about 95% sure that that's what that stands for. In terms of X Games being extreme games, it's hard to argue in my mind that they would deserve a medal for playing video games. Now, I don't, obviously, I'm not going to sit here and say video games are bad. They shouldn't be considered a sport because they are sports. 95, 99% of that word is sports. And that's not just a technicality. I've read a few articles about conditioning that players have to go through. It's one thing for me to sit here in my chair right now and play a video game for 10 hours straight, and to be also in good shape and good mental shape to be able to constantly do that, versus someone who has to go skiing down a cliff and hope that they land and not die. There's a big discrepancy, and I definitely can see her point, and I understand her argument to an extent. The way she went about it a little bit, it seemed like she was talking down to him, but she later corrected herself. But obviously, this is the internet, and we will take everything out of context.
Clearly.
So, in my mind, are they deserving of a gold medal? It's a tough call. I think maybe they don't deserve a medal in terms of extreme, because it's not extreme to say that I'm going to sit here and play Halo and win a medal. But at the same time, it is a sport where you need to be mentally conditioned to be able to handle the amount of stress you're going to be under, and you have to be able to react quickly to everything. It's a Twitch game mode, or not a game mode. It's a
Right.
Twitch game, and like I said, you have to condition yourself to be able to sit down for long periods of time and not damage your body in terms of disease and other random things that happen when you tend to not move around very often.
Right. Exactly.
So it's a very debatable topic, and I can see it going both ways with many different kinds of arguments. But like I said, the main thing she's trying to say, no gamer deserves a gold medal because they aren't skiing off a cliff to their potential death if they don't land right, unless they're playing a skiing game competitively, and then they don't actually die; their character does.
In competitive shooters, they die a lot.
Yeah,
So
exactly. That's as close as they would get. So I think if I had to honestly side with somebody, and I don't like doing it that black and white. I don't like being as polar as one way or the other. Um, I'm honestly I couldn't choose one to be truthful. I definitely think it's much more demanding to be able to professionally ski or to do like the snowmobiles where they do backflips with those 2-ton things or however heavy they really are. It's definitely more dangerous than playing a video game with sponsors who pay for you to win games. And at the same time, I definitely think that they should get recognition for winning these games in some form, and they typically do in terms of prize money and global recognition and other miscellaneous things like sponsorships. So I
right.
really couldn't pick a side, and I refuse to have it that way to where you just pick a side because the world isn't polar like that. But do you have any thoughts on it?
I have to agree. There is a, like you said, clear difference between skiing off a cliff and not dying compared
Hmm.
to dying in a video game and waiting 5 seconds to respawn.
Right.
Um, they both undergo conditioning just in different ways because I'm sure if I sat in a really uncomfortable chair like they do up on a main stage for 6 hours a day, that would probably more than that actually. Um, I would not be feeling all that well afterwards.
Right.
So, you
Yeah,
know,
and if you want to compare the science of sitting for long hours, this is actually something I've learned a lot about through like YouTube educational videos and stuff. The science of sitting down for extended hours, like honestly, they've proven that you can get like cancer in your lower area, like below your stomach, in that like kidneys and stuff like that. You can get cancer from sitting down for too long, and that sounds absurd, but it's basically if you go an hour straight sitting, you're more likely than if you would have stood up for 5 minutes within that hour. That's how bad it is. So, by the way, if you're listening, you should probably play a video game standing up.
all right, I guess I need to
Yeah,
start working on that.
it's kind of scary to think about, but then that you could argue, you could. I'm not saying it is the best argument. You could argue that they are chancing cancer. Sure, they wouldn't get it for another 30 years, but I think that's honestly a legitimate argument you could think about. So when I pitched that argument to my girlfriend, who was kind of on Christie's side here, where she's like, "Well, I mean, to be honest, she could die what she's doing, and the only way the guy that is playing video games is going to die is from the dude across from him throwing a controller at him." And she says, "Well, then why don't we just give a medal to every person who has a desk job?" And that's another valid point, but I could think of a way to counteract it pretty quickly in terms of they aren't okay. It's basically this. Yes, people who have desk jobs would be in the same issue, and that's actually where they did these studies, were in desk jobs. But you have to think of it in terms of they aren't under a gigantic stress microscope from everyone around them watching. They aren't getting paid a bunch of money. They don't condition themselves to be sitting there like they are. Many of the professional gamers that do this do condition themselves to be able to sit down like that for extended periods of time. So that's a big discrepancy in terms of what she said. I'm not trying to single her out and sit here and say my girlfriend was wrong. I'm just saying it was a valid argument that she brought up and that you would want to think about if you were going to try and say they are chancing disease to anywhere below the stomach, basically, by sitting for extended periods of time. Because many people chance that by just having a day job.
Right.
So it's a lot to think about, and it's like I said, you can't be just black and white about it. It's like, oh, they deserve a medal or they don't. There's a lot of gray areas. So,
Right.
and
Yeah.
I hope that's
It's
enough food for thought for anyone listening.
it's definitely it's definitely a subject where I can see both sides of the argument.
Hmm.
But I think the core of it is going back to where people believe video games are not technically sports.
Yeah, and that's still debated. And
Oh yeah, it still is.
I
I'm sure
think
there's a
we
lot of people angry that ESPN has a little esports section of their website.
I'd believe it. And there's probably many who just don't even notice it or care. And
Oh yeah,
that's a different realm, but I, I'm sure you and I both kind of have the agreement that it is sports because it gets a lot of views, it gets a lot of sponsorships, it takes a lot of
right.
skill to be able to do it. To say it doesn't require skill is lying.
Yeah,
The amount of times we got sniped last night shows someone had more skill than we did. So
yeah. Let's not talk about last night.
yeah, we're gonna skim over that. But so that was
Selective memory.
yeah. So that was what I had on my list. Oh, the Super Bowl prediction for anyone who's curious. The Super Bowl is tomorrow as of today of this recording. So when you probably hear this podcast or when this podcast is released, the Super Bowl will either be happening, will soon to be happen, or have happened. The prediction by EA Sports Madden 16, which they do a simulation every year, these the prediction is that the Panthers will win 24-20 over the Broncos. So if that happens, good job, EA Sports. I don't know how accurate they are on each prediction, though. I
Ooh,
don't know.
they last year they correctly predicted the winner, and they were only like 3 points off from correctly predicting the score of it. So
Well,
it was pretty interesting because I read that off of Polygon last year when they did that. I'm like,
mm,
wow, that's pretty good. And then it made me question the legitimacy of the bowl games I simulate every year for the college football games. Like,
right,
huh. Then I look at the actual score and it's like 42-0. It's like, oh, well, there goes that idea.
right. uh, so if you're doing a Super Bowl party tomorrow or today when you're listening to this or yesterday, I hope you were careful, will be careful, or are being careful. I have to speak in three tenses just to talk about this, but yeah, just have fun. Be careful, people. Don't go driving drunk. I want you to
Yeah,
listen to
don't
this and
don't
not
do
die.
yeah, don't do that.
Anyways, I think that just about covers everything. Who are you picking for the Super Bowl? Who do you want to win?
Oh, good grief. That's a tough question because I really don't care for either team. I'm a
I,
Steelers fan personally. Steelers and Bears both suck normally, so
oh, the
uh,
Steelers have been pretty decent. The Bears, not so
they
much.
have they have
It's
been,
better
yeah.
than me. It's much better than me.
Yeah.
I'm a Titans fan for anyone listening. I can't believe I just admitted that, but that's how bad it's gotten.
Well, I mean, if we're going that far, I'm an Illinois fan, as you can tell.
I don't have anything
Um,
Ohio State in this room, but
Back to the subject though. Kind of hoping Carolina wins because I don't like Manning. He's the new Brett Favre. He needs to retire
yeah,
and then come back in a season. I'm playing again for a different team.
I'd like to just see a good game, but overall, I think it'd be great if the Panthers did win. But at the same time, if Peyton wins, we know he will retire. If he doesn't win, there is a very slim chance he comes back. So
That's actually wow.
yeah,
That could get interesting.
so you either root for the guy to retire or you root for Cam Newton, who's just an all around hilarious and awesome dude. And you
Yeah.
obviously root for the team, not just the quarterback. But
No, I'm rooting for the quarterback.
there you go.
He's going to win that Super Bowl. He's going to play every single position somehow.
Oh man. So here's hoping that happens. Anyways, all right, we're pretty much out of time. Do you have any thing you want to add at this point, or are you good to go?
Nope, I'm good.
All right, cool. Okay, so let's do some advertising really quick in terms of our channel and everything. We will be uploading this to our YouTube channel, which doesn't have an official URL yet because we need 100 subscribers. So if you're listening and want an easy to access YouTube channel, you should subscribe. It'll be on the Frantic Talks website, which is frantictalks.com. We will post podcasts there every Sunday and or Monday. It's been Monday the past couple of days due to my schedule, which it might actually be that again due to how busy I am for Super Bowl Sunday. Uh, you'll you can find us there, read the articles we post about video games. You can head to the magic.frantictalks.com side of the website where we talk about Magic the Gathering. You can also find me on Twitter at
At
twitter.com
Twitter.
/ whatever. It's at FranticJ3. And you can find Grunt also on Twitter at Onyx, ONYX, Spartan, not Stored Grunt. As
I used to have a stored grunt account, then I got rid of it
I
because I'm
I
like,
remember that.
why do I need to?
I do remember that. And
Yep.
then you can also follow Frantic Talks official Twitter account at frantic_talks, where we tweet about the podcast and our articles and maybe a few other random retweets in relation to what we write about. And then we have a Facebook page, facebook.com/frantic talks, all one word. And if all else fails, you can always just Google, because that's how you find stuff. Anyways, that's pretty much everything. Oh, you can catch the stream of the podcast every Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern at twitch.tv/franticj3. The third is 3RD, because some bastard took Frantic J3. I'm still upset about that. 2 years
Uh,
later.
I'm just. It's going to be your name on your MLG team with the same name, only Frantic with a K instead of a C. So.
That's what it'll be. Yep, exactly.
Yep.
Because I gotta have K's instead of C's.
Yep.
Anyways, that about wraps it up. So, yep, like I said, you can catch us every Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern, which is when we're recording right now. If
Indeed.
you're listening live, thanks for listening. And if you're listening at any other time, again, thanks for listening. I am Frantic,
I'm Grunt.
and we will see you next time.